welcome to a very special interview show of the Prode. The Black Sea has emerged as a pivotal area in the geopolitical struggle between the West and Russia. Since Russia's illegal annexation of Crimea in 2014 and its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the region has seen heightened military activity, economic disruption, and increasing strategic significance. To unpack the evolving dynamics in the Black Sea and assess how NATO and its allies can respond to Russia's assertive posture, we are joined by Nino Lezhava, a non-resident fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis. With deep expertise in regional security and Euro-Atlantic cooperation, Nino offers critical insights into the interplay of military, economic, and diplomatic strategies that can shape the West's engagement in the Black Sea. Thank you so much, Ms. Lizava, for your time and a very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me today. Thanks for providing the chance for me to talk to your audience. First of all, I would like to apologize in advance for the noise that you might hear in the background coming from the street. Well, New York is truly a city which never sleeps, so let's get used to it. So before answering your question, I would like to briefly provide the geopolitical context of the Black Sea region to understand the bigger picture. So we need to remember that the Black Sea is the home of three NATO allies, Bulgaria, Romania, Turkey, and two close partners in terms of partnership for peace. It's Ukraine and Georgia, and we have Russia. And as we see, the complexity already lies in an eclectic representation of the countries, considering the forms of governance, considering the levels of democracy, membership of international organizations, foreign policy trajectories, aspirations, and surely the economic and defense capacities that create this eclectic picture. Apart from the security flashpoint, the Black Sea is also a very significant economic corridor for connecting Europe to South Caucasus and Central Asia. Thus, in these days, the Black Sea has this strategic importance for the West, not only in terms of deterring and countering Russia, but also countering China as well in terms of economic coercion and in general emergence of the authoritarian powers in region and beyond. And one more important aspect that I want your attention to draw on is that while we are discussing the Black Sea security, wider Black Sea security, we have to remember that the South Caucasus is an integral part of this region, meaning Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, which has the access to the Black Sea coast. And I'm sure that current evolving situation between Armenia, the historic situation between Armenia and Azerbaijan, where precedently the United States stepped in and offered its role to mediate between them in terms of managing Zangezur corridor for 1 year, it is also a very good signal to understand that whatever happens in the South Caucasus has a butterfly effect on the wider Black Sea region. So to return back to your question, how to influence Western allies' naval and economic presence in the Black Sea to effectively counter Russia, there are different major key aspects, but for me, the number one challenge is NATO not having a tailor-made Black Sea strategy. It's been a long time that we have not seen this document here. The same applies to the United States of America, which is the primary leading force in the alliance. It's no surprise. Why is it important? Because it would avoid the fragmentation of the actions of the allies, and it will also foster coordination between them. The document, which should be specifically made to tackle Black Sea security, should be comprehensive, multi-spectrum, multi-dimensional, with the multi-dimensional approach, considering the mix of modern hybrid warfare and the classic kinetic war that we are witnessing in Ukraine these days, unfortunately. And of course, the weaponization of supply chains, transportation routes, and economic coercion that is taking place as well. So the strategy will provide the solution how to create military deterrence, economic engagement, and regional partnership, having more efficient outcomes at the end of the day. We also need to mention with this regard that unfortunately, despite all of the historic moments which happened in the Black Sea region, I mean, particularly Russia's attack on Georgia in 2008, then lately the same illegal attack to Ukraine, I mean, the Crimea in 2014. Still the NATO the Black Sea region has never been the priority for NATO in comparison to the Baltic Sea or Western Europe or Central Europe. But after Crimea, it was kind of awakening call for the alliance. We have witnessed that after Walsh Summit, the alliance deployed the multinational brigades in Baltic Sea. But as I said before, the problem has occurred at the Black Sea, but the response was made as the deterrence policy of NATO in the Baltic Sea. So my main take in this is that NATO urgently needs the tailor-made Black Sea strategy. And policies should also be applied to all of the countries in the region. It doesn't matter whether they are the part of the alliance as a member or not, because the fragmentation will not lead to the efficient outcomes at the end of the day in a long-term period of time. In this slide, we have to mention a very positive news that the European Union has just published its very first Black Sea strategy, aiming strengthening peace and security in the region, promoting sustainable economic development, supporting democratic consolidation, etc. And what is the most important for our talk is that they also mentioned that the European Union is going to establish the Black Sea Maritime Security Hub, which will provide situational awareness and information sharing within the Black Sea between the European member states. But as I said, it's not enough. Despite the fact that European Union and NATO are two sides of one coin, still NATO presents the only military political organization, and it has different responsibilities towards the allies. The second one, the major takeaway in this regard is strengthening naval capacities directly connected to the defense budget and defense industrial capacity of the allies, especially the allies which are within the Black Sea, the littoral states of the Black Sea region basin. And I'm really glad to see that transatlantic bond at the end of this turmoil has agreed to a 5% defense spending, the burden sharing. And I think that is the step towards boosting their stockpiles. But we need to remember that the allies which are within the Black Sea region, the Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey, they need the support from their partners and allies from the alliance. And in this regard, I'm very happy that boosting their capabilities and boosting defense budget will provide a room for a goal-oriented planning and not the resource-based one. Also, it is very important that allies in Europe and on the other side of the Atlantic, they found the consensus how to provide Ukraine with the weapons. And now they started to purchase weapons from the United States, and NATO will be the main coordinator with this regard. Another very important part of this conversation, how to strengthen their presence within the Black Sea, is that NATO has to to strengthen its cooperation with Turkey, which is the second largest military power in the alliance and the biggest military power in the Black Sea region. It is also very important to understand that Turkey presents the country which is the supervisor of Montreux Convention, which is limiting the scale of naval power of non-Black Sea nations. And it means that NATO allies are quite restricted in their actions within the Black Sea. So Turkey has a very, very important role with this regard. But we also see that official Ankara deserves recognition for carrying its very balanced, how to say, autonomous foreign policy, hedging between Russia and the West. But it's also deserves the recognition that they managed to host negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. It indicates that Turkey truly has the ambition to be the regional power and to promote its capacity. But it's very tricky seeing official Ankara being the ally, official member state of NATO, and at the same time applying to BRICS. So we remember the last Kazan BRICS summit where Turkey was presented there with along with Azerbaijan and Armenia as well. So it's a little bit tricky, but I think there is enough room and space for the allies to strengthen their cooperation with Turkey, as the Turkey has a very, very important role in this situation, especially now in terms of the developments within the South Caucasus. I mean, the Zangezur corridor, we know that Turkey is promoting and pushing this topic because opening the Zangezur corridor will provide another opportunity for the transportation routes and will boost the economic cooperation. So yes, that's what I wanted to kind of wrap for the first question for you.
Yeah, so now coming to the sanctions. So, what role should Western sanctions and diplomatic pressure play in isolating Russia economically and militarily, particularly in light of Moscow's use of energy exports as a geopolitical weapon in the Black Sea region? So, how do you see this whole discourse on economic sanctions on Russia in order to in order to enhance the Western influence in the Black Sea region over Russia?
Thank you very much for this very interesting question. I think sanctions are part of our daily discussion these days, but we also have to be very realistic while discussing sanctions because I do not want to be heard as pessimistic, but as a matter of fact, after 2 years, we still see Russia waging this war, being enthusiastic to wage this war against Ukraine and also capable to do so. And it indicates that Russia's economy became a wartime economy much more in a much more short period of time than the European allies or transatlantic allies managed to wake up in that terms. The question is, what are the role of the sanctions with this regard? Are we aiming at weakening Russia, or are we aiming to force Russia to sit at the negotiations table with Ukraine and end this war? But at the same time, we see that Russians are using North Korean troops, and I recently read that I guess Laos is also going to send some troops for Russia now. So it's kind of nonstop for them. And I've been to Brussels a month ago, and after that, even the Secretary Rutte has mentioned that Russia is producing the same amount of weapons in 3 months what NATO allies does in 1 year. So that also indicates that there's something needs to be changed regarding the sanctions, something that is linked to the unity of the transatlantic partners, because we have seen and witnessed these discussions in NATO, in the European Union, and we know that there is not the consensus when it comes to Hungary or Slovakia. So that is very important to see this unification of the policy and approach of all of the allies within the transatlantic bond. That's what I wanted to say. And also, it is very important to understand that it's not only Russia anymore. And I was listening to um, Madame Condoleezza Rice, which has emphasized that this is not the Cold War period anymore. It is even worse because there is much more formidable enemy in front of us, meaning not only Russia, but China on the backstage. Which quietly emerged in each and every region, including the Black Sea and South Caucasus. And in terms of providing Russia with weapons or the necessary uh, amount of fossil, it still drags back us to Beijing and to India and even to some of the European countries which are re-exporting or still cooperating in some kind of terms with Russia. And I also want to admit this sadly that South Caucasus and Central Asian countries are also kind of gray line in this regard while enforcing Russia's economic presence, while re-exporting the dual use goods, etc. So yes, sanctions has a lot meaning for us, but I think that we have to be more cautious and we have to be more target oriented while planning how we are going to use them against Russia's aggressive attack.
Yeah, now coming to sanctions, I mean, you mentioned India, and I'm an Indian citizen, and a large part of our audiences is are based in India. So recently, we have seen that the NATO chief have talked about sanctions on India as well. And how do you see the situation with India? Do you think the Western India partnership is weakening to some level when it comes to Russian oil?
Well, I can't go to the details of this question because I have not concentrated on India for a long time. But my major takeaway in this that this period is very much characterized with the transactional relations and also uncertainty. India is a considerable power in its region and globally as well. So I don't think that the Western allies will cut their ties to the moment that they won't have this negotiation space with India. Moreover, I think that they will try to fix this and somehow bring India to the negotiation table to have much more in common with the allies rather with Russia. Just my concern is the time with this regard, because I think for the allies that clock is ticking already for a long time, and they have to be faster with this regard.
Yeah. Now coming to Ukraine's continued resistance in the Black Sea. So, in what ways can continued resistance in the Black Sea serve as a critical front for defending democratic values and maintaining the rule-based international order against Russian expansion?
Yeah. It is very important to understand. Well, I think that everyone understands today, but it's the war of attrition. So sometimes all of us are getting tired of talking about one of the same topics, and trying to find common solutions. But it's a matter of fact that Ukraine is fighting for the democratic world right now, not for its own survival, but the current international order that we have right now. So if the Ukraine won't if Ukraine won't get enough support to um, make Russia sit at the negotiations tables, and Russia will feel that they have some kind of they have gained some kind of victory or they have prevailed. It will bring us completely different outcomes for the region and for the European security, for the transatlantic security, because there is a very nice book written by Zachary Shore about it's titled by Sense of Enemy, where he is discussing very nicely that during the pattern breaking moments, enemies or adversaries need to be responded in a proper manner. The line for them need to be drawn very sharply. And if this does not happen, they will understand that they are appeased and their taste will be enlarged, to say so. So if Ukraine doesn't prevail in this war, when I say prevail, I mean realistic outcomes. And if Russia and the other authoritarians won't see that the transatlantic bond or democratic values and international liberal order is strong, they will uh, they will plan and execute all of their desires, whatever they wanted to do, in terms of breaching this order, in terms of respecting other territories' sovereignty, in terms of violating modern Westphalian order. That's what it means for us, Ukraine, to be victorious in this case.
Yeah, now coming to a very critical part of security, and that is intelligence sharing and maritime security cooperation. So, how can Western countries enhance intelligence sharing and maritime security cooperation to mitigate Russia's asymmetric tactics such as mining, shipping harassment, and covert operations in the Black Sea? And how can NATO and its ally frame a structured security framework in order to counter all of these threats?
Thank you. Um, let's start from the point where I'm very critical today, but I think that we have to see the reality and the loopholes then to work, how to fulfill these gaps lately together. So NATO has not updated its naval security concept since 2011. Despite the fact that the alliance is underlining the importance of Black Sea maritime security in its strategic concept, the naval security concept is not updated still yet, and it says a lot. It's crystal clear that the capacity of Bulgaria and Romania, the naval capacity, will never be enough solely to have some kind of countermeasures against Russia, mitigating the rules-based order in the Black Sea. Committing to support Ukraine is again and again the number one key with this regard, how to strengthen allies' capacity in the Black Sea, because first things first, we have to see the end of this war where Ukraine won't be a loser. And also, as I have mentioned, strengthening relations and NATO's capacity in cooperation with Turkey is number one priority in this slide, I think so. Because we have seen that Russia is using all of these assets, would it be the hybrid tools or classic warfare tools, to mitigate Western power in the Black Sea region. And I'm very glad that I have seen some kind of signals of more regional cooperation with this regard. For example, a year ago, Turkey, Bulgaria, and Romania signed trilateral agreement to launch joint mine sweeping mission in the Black Sea, because these mines present huge danger for commercial ships and not only the military ones as well. And this is also the part of asymmetric tactics of Russia, mining, as you have mentioned, coverting operations in the Black Sea. And we also need to mention the fleet, the shadow fleet of Russia, which is operating these days very efficiently. So it is very important to have the naval strategy and concept within the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and to see the unity in actions of the allies.
Yeah. So
I
now
think
my
I
Yeah, now my next question would be to fully integrate Black Sea security, because you talked about how NATO needs to update its naval capabilities and its naval structured planning. So, what are the strategic risks if NATO fails to fully integrate Black Sea security into its broader defense posture, and how might it help Russia to escalate its hybrid warfare and territorial ambitions in Eastern Europe?
When we are talking about the hybrid warfare, we need to remember that the countries which are located within the Black Sea region, Black Sea basin, they're still quite sensitive and vulnerable towards the hybrid warfare. I mean, the disinformation and propaganda and all of the destabilization what Russia does within their countries, especially during the elections. And a very good example we have witnessed in Romania quite recently. I'm really glad the outcome of these elections was still positive for the Western powers, but it was a testament that they are vulnerable and they need to be more resilient towards the hybrid tools of Russia. And we also need to remember that in order to have common ground for military actions or defense capabilities, the governments of these countries need to be willing to do so. So without a political will, there is nothing happening on the military operational area. And in these terms, hybrid warfare resistance of the Black Sea littoral countries are very important. Georgia is a very good example, very unfortunate example of this, where we are witnessing the democratic backsliding, seeing that the government is backed up by Russian forces. Changing the foreign trajectory from the path of transatlantic integration of the country, when Georgia was one of the prominent partners of the alliance in the previous years, and we have seen the Bucharest summit saying that Georgia would one day become the NATO member country, but as a result of the hybrid warfare, we see it completely dragged away from the past where it was standing. At least 1 year ago, 6 months ago, we had a completely different environment. So yes, it is very important to have defensive capabilities towards the hybrid warfare. And what happens if NATO won't be able to defend the Black Sea region and Ukraine? Nothing positive we can say definitely in these days, because Russia's ambitions, according to their imperialistic ideology, truly go beyond Ukraine. And I'm glad that Washington has understood finally the signals that are coming from Moscow these days, and we see these snap decisions in DC. But beyond this, the ambitions of Moscow do go to the Baltics or to the post-Soviet area. So there are different options. It depends what will be Russia's capacity after finishing the war with Ukraine. Would it be able to regenerate its power to go against NATO, or it will be less able to do so and will still try to go back to the South Caucasus, which is trying to get rid of Russia's influence these days? This is a very sensitive topic, I think so. But the major outcome will be that this might become the start of global realignment in the international world order, and it might create a multipolar world where with different spheres of influence, where China also will emerge even much more formidable power for the West and for the liberal world order. So this is very critical moment for the West and for the liberal values and democratic values that we have here.
Yeah, I would like to conclude the discussion by asking that how should the UK, US, and EU balance military assistance, economic aid, and diplomatic engagement to ensure a resilient and sovereign Ukraine capable of pushing back against Russia's illegal war and Russia's influence in the Black Sea region?
Yeah, as I have mentioned for a number of times already, the unity of the transatlantic bond is the most important in this case. The coordination, cooperation of UK, of the United States, of the United Kingdom, and other European allies is the key. Key to provide Ukraine with substantial amount of weapons to be capable to do the counteroffensive operations against Russia and to have more chances to prevail in this situation. So yeah, that's the number one priority, I think so. And the talks about European autonomy, I think that it's not the right time, and we have witnessed that it's kind of lessons learned that the strong presence of the United States on the European ground is must in these days. And this is not the right time to talk and discuss or act towards the European strategic autonomy. It will come naturally after overcoming this challenge. It will happen naturally because the European Union is a very strong economic power, and if the allies start working on their defense capabilities, defense industrial capacity, and the purchasing capacity, they will definitely achieve this autonomy from the United States one day. But right now, the number one priority is to have strong transatlantic bond and to have the common language and interoperability between them.
Yeah, that brings us to the end of this crucial conversation on the evolving security landscape in the Black Sea region. As we have heard from Ms. Lezhava, the region is not just a geographical flashpoint, but also a strategic frontier where the future of Euro-Atlantic security, democratic resilience, and the international order is being tested in real time. Thank you once again, Ms. Lezhava, for your time, and it was a pleasure having you on the road.
Thank you very much for having me. I wish we could have more time for discussions, but we can always do that next time as well.
Thank you so much.